Hello, I'm John Beaumont, and welcome to the Practical Animal channel, the hub for everything to do with the international animal industry. My next guest is an animal industry professional who started life as a farmer. That's right, isn't it, John? You
That's
got into
right, yes.
yeah. John, what advice can you give somebody who wants to get into farming but was not born into it?
It's changed a lot from when I was young. When I was young, farming was a way of life. Obviously, my family were farmers, so I naturally followed on. Nowadays, it is big industry. You still get, sons come through, but most of the people into farming now, you need to go to an agricultural college. You need to get the sort of theory behind it because tractors are high tech, they're computer controlled, all the various procedures on a farm are all high technology now. So the likes of me wouldn't stand a chance nowadays. But yeah, there's still the openings, but obviously, unfortunately, machinery has replaced manpower. And so there are not so many openings. One man can quite happily, cultivate and crop 500 acres on his own, whereas back in my day, that was 10 men. Yeah. She's passing or he's passing his comments as well.
That's great. John, you then went into gamekeeping. Can you tell me how that transition happened?
Well, it came about by chance almost. Obviously, we've been in the farming fraternity. All the farmers used to get together in the winters for shoots, and I used to go with my dad as a boy, as a beater or picking up, carrying the pheasants. And then they got older, it stopped. And then one of the farmers, his son-in-law, was interested, and I knew the farm very well. They wanted to make it a little bit better, so we grouped 3 adjoining farms together. And I went there as a gamekeeper for 8 years, and we developed a really healthy family shoot. It wasn't commercial. Nobody had to come to shoot the money's worth. The most important thing was to put on a good, safe, sporting day and everybody to enjoy it.
What do
And
people need nowadays to get into gamekeeping?
well, again, now there are specialists. The openings are so small now, it is difficult. You would need to go to a college, the like of Sparsholt comes to mind, where you do the gamekeeper's course, you learn the theory, but then you get a job as a underkeeper, general dog's body, and you work your way up. It's a really, really good profession, but it's a vocation rather than a Monday to Friday job. It's 7 days a week, very long hours. No matter what the weather is, you've still got the job to do. It is rewarding, and if you were really into the countryside, as I've always been, then to me it was a pleasure rather than a job.
You find gamekeepers get a slightly negative press nowadays, John?
They do, unfortunately, and in my opinion, well, my good knowledge, it's ill-deserved. Of course, there are always going to be a bad apple in a barrel. That's going to happen. But I know a lot of shoots and a lot of gamekeepers, and they would never dream of. It's always aimed at the birds of prey persecution. There's certain TV presenters that seem to crusade it, but there's some figures have only just come out this last week or so that on some of the keepered moors, some of the ground nesting birds, including the birds of prey, the harriers, the merlins, the short-eared owls, have had some of the best breeding successes ever, contrary to some of the RSPB managed sites. Wow. Where they haven't had the success. Of course, the gamekeepers, they are controlling ground predator vermin. It's a word you'll use, but let's itemize it. Foxes, stoats, weasels, rats, they will destroy any ground nesting birds and nests. They take chicks or adults off the nest, they take the eggs. You have to control those if you want the vulnerable species to survive. It's not agreed on by everybody, but if you look at it, it is a very, very positive side effect to the gamekeeping profession. And as I say, there are thousands and thousands of gamekeepers. And I think the statistic is 0.02% have actually been proven to have, committed an illegal act. And those that do, I'm all in favour of them being prosecuted. They lose the job, they lose the house, and they deserve to. But because it's a bad name for all the good ones.
How did you progress into estate management?
Beg pardon?
How did you progress into estate management?
Well, I'd sort of gone from the farm because they gradually gave the farm up, and then I went into forestry and other sort of lines of work associated. Then in 1999, I had a liver failure, and I decided I couldn't keep working the hours I did. So I thought I'll look for something else. I was sort of looking along the same lines. In actual fact, I work probably longer hours now than I did. But in general terms, yes, I have an important job to do and I'm on call for various things 24 hours a day, but I don't have the same pressure. Put it this way, I know where my salary is going to come from every month. Whereas when I was working for myself, I might not get it for 3 months, 4 months, and on rare occasions I didn't get it at all. And that's not good.
How did you progress into spending your time sharing your life with these fantastic birds, the goshawks?
Well, the birds I've always had since I was 11. My first one was an owl that was picked up and brought to me. I actually went on Blue Peter with that in 1970. It was a live show then, no video recorders, so I had never seen it. And in the late 90s, as part of my work, I was doing these television makeover programs. And one of them, a lot of things were going wrong. Cut a long story short, they couldn't pay me for the extra hours I had to work, but they said, can we do you a favour? I said, I'd love a copy of Blue Peter, January the 3rd, 1970. And eventually, 6 months later, I got it. So I had never seen it for 30 years.
Wow.
And it's quite interesting. And one question that Peter Purvis asked me, I got the owl, he said, would you like to go into falconry? And I said, oh yeah. He said, what, you want to hunt with the bird? I said, well, as long as it comes back to me, I shall be happy. And realistically, from then on, that was when I was 16 when I went on there. I had my first bird within a year. I had that one for 34 years. And the last 20 years, I've been flying. Whoops, Daisy. Been flying these little fellas, and I've got this one's great grandmother. I've got a progression of generations.
You breed goshawks, John? Sorry to
I
interrupt.
do, yeah. I started breeding them in 2005 after some 3 years of trial, error, and disasters. Eventually, we got the ingredients right, and it worked. And there's nothing more rewarding than you've reared 2 birds from chicks, you've hunted them, flown them, you get them to breed, and then you get the likes of this thing. And despite his noise, he is an exceptional hunting bird, but he only came out the pen last Saturday, and he will do his first free flight this afternoon.
This afternoon?
Yeah, but that's because all I've done is press the memory buttons from last year. He was a young bird last year. A new bird, takes a lot longer, obviously. But,
how do you breed them? Do you use a seclusion aviary? Do you use imprint?
Now, I have open-fronted aviaries, but with the goshawks, it's all done by artificial insemination. My disasters were when I tried to put pairs together. Long story, but I went to a lot of trouble, thought I'd got it right, and all I ended up with was dead cockbirds. Hen birds just killed them. So I bred AI falcons for the best part of 15 years by then. So I sort of adapted that technique for the goshawks, and touch wood, it worked. And that's what I've done for the last 20 years now.
And you make hawk transport boxes. How did you get into that?
Well, that started, I'd got a box and I sorted, I got a few faults, bits kept falling off it. And so I decided I'd like to make my own. First one was okay, it was functional, but it wasn't pretty. And so I gave that to a friend, I made a couple more, and by about the 4th, we'd pretty much got it looking, like reasonable product. And then a few friends asked me, oh, can I have one? And can I have one? And 426 boxes later. I've just taken 3 weeks off from doing them because whether it was to do with the lockdown, I don't know, but I turned 50 out in a month during July, and I was working till midnight, and I thought, whoa, this is getting back to 1999. So I stopped for 2 weeks.
If people want a hawk transport box, or indeed a falcon chick or a goshawk from you, how can they contact you?
I'm on Facebook, Messenger, or email. If they contact or they go on to the British Falconers Club website, my address appears on there for the Cotswold region. They can search on Facebook or they can search on Messenger. I don't advertise them. It all goes by, you know, people hopefully recommending for the right reasons.
What was your experience like as an officer of the British Falconers Club?
It was enlightening for a start. When I first went, you're in the club, you go to meetings, but you honestly have no idea of the hours of sometimes what might appear boring paperwork and stuff we have to go through. Basically, we are tasked with administering the club for the benefit of best part of 1,000 members, and whenever you're spending somebody else's money, obviously, you know, comes with a responsibility. You've got to spend it wisely and efficiently, but you never please everybody all the time. But you know, I've been on the BFC Council now for 9 years. I've learned a lot of, you know, as I said, what goes on. We only have one full-time staff, which is the secretary. Other than that, we're all volunteers that give a number of days up every year. We meet usually up in Derby, which is a 2-3 hour run from me. But we do it as an input. You know, we give back to the club. I get so much from falconry, and I want to see it carry on. You know, it's obviously from all sides, it's under pressure. But if we can keep our noses clean, show that we're doing things, you know, correctly, properly, for the welfare of the birds, then, you know, hopefully we'll be comparatively left alone. Although, yeah, there are certain public figures that would like us not to be.
And finally, John, have you got anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, I mean, falconry, to me, it's my pressure release valve. All right, occasionally it adds to the pressure, there's no doubt about that. But, you know, when you get one like this walking in your ear, he's just not, I'm not in a good mood this morning, that is. Only because he wants feeding. Yeah, it's not to be taken up lightly. It's probably, as far as keeping a, you know, any living animal, probably one of the most committed things you'll ever do. You can't just put them away and leave them. They literally need looking after every day, several times a day. You can't send them to a boarding kennel, although, yeah, I have quite a few people, hawks here through the year to look after if they go on holiday. But it is so rewarding. But younger people, which unfortunately we're very scarce of, there's a few, but it's not a quick enough fix. Unfortunately, technology, they can just press a button, switch it on, they get instant entertainment. To spend weeks and weeks training one of these to get it to do what you want it to do, and then finally get it to hunt, some don't have the patience. But I would always help and encourage anybody that wants to, and I have mentored several people. I'm not saying what I say is right, it just works for me. And when you do as I say, or you go and do it on your own. It's as simple as that. The bird's welfare is more important than the person's ego, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't mean it. I'm doing it for the best reasons.
John, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for appearing with the Goshawk.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much indeed for appearing on the Practical Animal channel.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Great. Speak to you again. Thank you, John.
All right, I'll pop him back.